Right, okay, let's move for that one let's move to a game that was another hammering, but was, again, interesting. And that was Dundee 4, St Mirren 0, taking place at Dens Park, where, I mean, it said a lot about both teams. One, it kind of underlined Dundee's surprising competence to begin the Scottish Premiership season, but also St Mirren having rescued a point against Hibs. And I said on the podcast I done with Joe, the Patreon, if you'd like to listen to that, patreon.com/Terrace Podcast, you can hear me sound like a bit of an idiot. I said that I thought that was huge for St Mirren, because if they could go and get a positive result at Dundee, then that really kind of shows to themselves that they are a proper team to be reckoned with in the battle for third place. I know they've already got it, but it's still an early part of the campaign. Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen have really got off to slow starts, and if they could have followed that up with a result.
They're third, but they're, in a more traditional sense, they're 6 points from 10 or something.
So yeah, that was, thank you, Tom. I was kind of going in circles there, but that's kind of what that's what's worrying about St Mirren. I've got my theories on this, because I'm a little bit like the band in the Titanic when it comes to St Mirren, I think, this season. So I'll go to you guys first. Tom, I'll go to you. What do you think, St Mirren? Right, first, St Mirren, is this them showing their true colours, or was this just a particularly bad day at the office?
I think for the moment it was a bad day at the office, because the things that went wrong. So like they've built a really strong start to the season on, like, they're really hard to beat. They're really hard running. They do the basics really well. They defend set pieces really well. They don't tend to give runners. They close down runners. They're a hard running, hard working team. Here they conceded 2 goals to corners and 2 on the counter that they had more men back by playing a ridiculously high line and chasing a game that was already done. So in the sense that it didn't look like they downed tools. It didn't look like there was anything like fundamentally broken. There was just all the mistakes that you might expect to happen in 4 or 5 games all seemed to happen in one at once. And there wasn't that sense of this one's. They were chasing it. They were chasing a game too hard that didn't have any chance of winning at that point. I think their form is stuttered a little bit, but I'm not sure that's especially surprising given the run that they had in the first instance. And St Mirren, as good as they've been in the last kind of calendar year or so at home, have been pretty atrocious away from home. Better this season, yes, but still, it's hardly a glowing record away from home. Whereas Dundee, the 4 goals are a big surprise, but they've got a really good home record, and they seem like a much more cohesive unit than I thought. They seem to have turned up a couple of bargains in the transfer window. And look, of all the teams that are there or thereabouts, they actually look like they're not just there by luck or bad luck. They actually look like they kind of know what they're doing.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about Dundee in a second, but I'll go to you, Craig. Craig, what does this say about St Mirren's candidacy for third place?
I don't think they're. I think even Stephen Robinson wouldn't have put them down as favourites for third, even when they were sitting quite a few points clear. I think it shows up like they are clearly a good team and they've got good players, but they probably were playing above themselves for much of the start of the season. Like, they were getting a tune out of guys that's beyond what you would really expect those players to be doing. And then when some of the mistakes start creeping in, like Richard Taylor's not a player I really rate particularly highly, but he started to look a wee bit shaky. Zach Hemming, probably you could question for a couple of goals. You know that he's kind of got that in him as well at this level. Those players who clearly have something about them, but we're just consistently being excellent. And it's natural for that to drop off. I don't think it's something they have to worry about in terms of their season.
I've got another question for you. How much do you buying into they were ill, they had an illness, a sickness bug throughout the team?
I think they said it before the game, but I question that in general. As like it's a very easy excuse to fall back on afterwards. There probably were one or two players, but
Richard Taylor in that first half certainly looked like there was something wrong with him.
I don't know. They made a quadruple sub at half time, which is maybe telling, but these things happen through a season, and I think when that happens, you just try and kill a game maybe and get a 0-0 or whatever. But I don't think they're getting to worry, but I think they're still strong contenders for a top half finish. But I think it's natural when a team is really playing miles better than they should be that they're going to start losing some games.
I still believe a lot more in St Mirren than I think the majority of people will. So
St Mirren will not finish third.
I still think they'll finish third. I said it before, and I'm going down with this shit.
Shall I make a rash bet again?
Oh.
I'm not your enemy's pubes, Tom. I'm not your enemy's pubes.
I know St Mirren won't finish third.
What you got in mind?
£100 to a charity of your choice.
No, fuck off.
Money where mouth is. I think St Mirren will finish in the top 6. I don't think they'll finish third. I don't think they'll get European football. I think they've started the season really well, and they are a really cohesive unit. But all it really takes at this stage, and it's fun, but all it really takes at this stage is for anyone to put 3 wins together. And I don't see them necessarily being the sort of team that's going to be able to put 4 or 5 wins together because their away form still got question marks over it. I think they'll probably lose Canibacus certainly in January. I think that's a hard.
If they're still, I said this earlier this season, when people were saying like they'll lose players in January or whatever. If they're still in the battle for third place in January, like serious in the battle, they won't sell anybody in January because it'll just be far too much money to them. Otherwise, they're not like if they sell Canibacus, what are they going to get? 150,000 if you're lucky.
Yeah, they'll get more. Well, they turned down more than that last summer.
He's out of contract next summer, so it's there. Unless he's going to be like, right, I'm just going to down tools. Like, there's absolutely no reason to sell him because they could get about £4 million otherwise.
Generally speaking, third needs about 60 points.
This
season is probably going to be 50.
53.
55. St Mirren will not get 50.
Right,
50.
so let me say that their recent run, so that their poor run, quote unquote. So they drew at Killie, not a bad result. They were beaten by Rangers. They beat St Johnstone. They got beat by Celtic in a close game as well, where they nearly got a point. They drew with Hibs. Again, not a bad result. Even the Hibs at home. Hibs are generally better away from home than they are at Easter Road. And then this is the bad result. But there's an international break coming up. They got the chance to right themselves. They get, apparently, Jonah Ayunga could even be back for the Livingston game. Then they've got Livingston at home, Ross County away. They play Rangers, not ideal. But then they're away to St Johnstone, home to Ross County, home to Motherwell.
They're not going to get 40 points from those 4 games, so that's what they're going to need.
But then they'll continue. Then they're going to Tynecastle.
They're going to have to at some point.
They're going to Tynecastle December 23rd. They'll frustrate the life out of Hearts and they'll get something there as well.
They're away from home. They're no. I think credit where huge credit where it's due. I think they've been a breath of fresh air in some ways the way they played. But I think Craig's point's absolutely valid in that there are too many players in that squad for me who are playing 2 levels above what we've seen them do before.
And they will continue to do so, Tom. Craig, before we move on, Dundee.
£100 on it.
No,
you heard it here first, people.
I need odds.
£100.
I need odds. I can't just have St Mirren or the field.
Well, £100 if I win goes to if St Mirren fail. If St Mirren finish third, I'll give you £100 to the charity of your choice. If they don't, and somebody else finishes third, then the opposite's true.
That's not an evens bet.
That's not an evens bet. No. Right, Craig.
Not that much confidence in Mirren fans.
Before we move on, Dundee, an excellent performance. Bakayoko, a couple of goals, which I was particularly pleased to see because he's somebody I quite like watching. He's somebody that's very much a handful for opposing defences, and it just hasn't really worked for him in terms of luck so far in front of goal this season. But also Zach Rudden with, I think, a lot of Dundee fans were saying his best game for them.
I think he saw that chance that he missed near the start of the game was perfect, kind of Zach Rudden. Like, it was like exactly what I saw from him in the season of the Championship, where he terrorised the defender. He bumps Taylor off the ball quite easily, gets himself into a position, and that's what Zach Rudden's good at. That's when I saw him play in the Championship, I thought this guy's got it. He's definitely got a chance in the Premiership. We've obviously not seen that, and he's
had a chance.
Well, no, that's what they say. We've not seen it in his first spell at Dundee, his loan spell at St Johnstone, or anything else, but he may be starting to kind of turn, and he's very much, I think, the thing with Docherty is his teams are very much on the McInnes Docherty prototype. They play in a very similar way, and that type of forward is always going to get chances because he's going to be an absolute nuisance for defenders constantly, and beyond that, they've got quality around about them, and they've got a good goalkeeper, they've got a very strong defence, it's 5 clean sheets and 6, like, that's the type of team who does well in this league, and I don't really see them that stopping again. Like they're not going to be pumping teams 4-0 at home every week again, and they're not going to be keeping 5 clean sheets out of 6 all the time. But they are such a much better team than Dundee have been since the Paul Hartley team that came up in that very first season. I think that's the last time they were anywhere near this good.